Hello, trading is closed on the 24th of July, 2023. As always, we'll do our disclaimer, go over our calls, make some predictions. This is my trading plan for tomorrow, which is the 25th of July, 2023. My calls can be completely wrong. Any trade should be made at your own risk. I have personal business much of this week, and I may not make any trades for the next few days, so I'm going to do the best I can, but the odds are I'm not going to be putting my own money at risk on any of these calls. That's not a guarantee, but just bear that in mind. Well, we had this big drop on Friday. I said this could be an ending diagonal triangle, and if so, we should move up and overtake the origin of the triangle, and we did that. Here's what we said. We said make a clearer picture if we were to rally first and then reject it, not necessarily the same day. Now, we've had the rally. We haven't rejected it yet, but I suspect that's going to be coming, and the only question is from where it starts. During the day, MEJT gave an ultimate buy signal. We did trade higher, but this system also said it wouldn't stick, that the move was false, and it should retrace, and it did that. This yellow area is support, and so far that support's held. Doesn't mean it has to hold tomorrow. This was a pattern with the early low. Tomorrow should also have the early low. We gapped up, hit higher highs, closed under all the highs, and if that's maintained at the open tomorrow, it should lead to lower prices. It's a rejection of the highs. But as always, what counts isn't where we close, but where we open. If we take this out early, all this negativity goes away, and that really isn't too far away as things go. I'm not saying we are going to take it out, but it wouldn't take much to do it. Well, this is our updated wave count. We've made one from the October low. We've made two. We've either completed three or completed one of three, if this is the right count. Let's look at what's happened from the top. Now, we said Friday that even though it looked a bit funny, we called this A and this B. Because of the fibs, B looked pretty good. So if that were correct, you should have a wave C. Well, if that's the beginning of A and that's the end of A, you set that height, and you can get wave C ending right here. So that's one possible way for the wave to end. But it's also possible to go from the extreme of A to the other extreme of A, add that to B. I do this right? There. And that gives you this. So it's also possible for this to be the end of C, with C equal to A. And if you look at the internals of wave C, this is an ABC and C equals A. So I think this is the more likely count. So this was wave A down, and this is wave B up of larger magnitude. And that looks like this. We have your A and we have your B, and you should have a C down. Now, how bad is C going to be? Well, if that's the right count, not really bad at all. I mean, this isn't much of a drop in terms of magnitude. This is a 5-minute chart, and that blows everything up. Let's go back to the daily chart. I mean, even if you're pretty generous with this, and you set this to 38.2, so you take a 268.1% drop for C being 261.8% of A, even that's usually as big as you go. I mean, that's not much of a drop at all. I mean, it's 44.31, but on this chart, it's not a disaster. I have a bunch of people I look at on the net who are calling for total collapses here. Well, this count isn't the count of a total collapse. I mean, it still could be a sizable drop, but it could stop here at 45.14, which would be C equals A. It could be C equals twice A, which is, I can't read all these numbers, 44.98, or it could be 1.618, which is 44.82. So all these are tradable drops, but they're hardly collapses. So tomorrow's pattern has the early low. We could still gap up. Typically it's a rally day with a high in the final hour, but if it's weak, we should see more weakness to follow. We gapped up at a higher high, we closed under intraday highs, and if that's maintained at the open, we should trade lower. Doesn't mean you closed lower. And the wave count's compatible with today's high holding. The fibs all work. And if that's the right count and that high holds, we should drop. But it's a drop. It's not a collapse. And if there isn't a collapse, once the drop's over, once that drops over, somewhere in here, if that's wave black 2, we should have wave 3 a multiple degree higher, and before too much time passes, get a huge move up. That doesn't mean it's going to start now. I still think it has to work off this overextended condition, but this to me isn't a chart of a market about to collapse. It's the chart of a market that's going to have a manageable correction and then have a lot more on the upside. That doesn't mean we go up tomorrow. And if this holds, we do look for lower prices regardless of how we close. It's a pattern with the early low, and that's today's call. And don't forget, this doesn't have to hold. I mean, if this doesn't hold, all this analysis goes away, and tomorrow's usually a positive day based on the chart. But it's coming right before the FOMC announcement is possible. We're not going to make much of a move before the announcement. So if it doesn't drop early, I don't know how much downside there's going to be. And that's today's call.